Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Career Crush Q&A. I'm Emily Aries, the founder and CEO of Bossed Up, and I am so excited to have with us today Ebony Ruffin, a financial consultant and one of our featured trainers at our upcoming Bossed Up Bootcamp. Ebony, thank you so much for being here today.
Good afternoon, Emily. Thank you so much for having me today.
I am so excited to chat with you because there are a million ways in which I know the Bossed Up community is interested in hearing from you and your experiences. I love that Ebony has started her own firm, Ruffin Financial Consultants. Is that correct?
Yes, Ruffin Consulting Services.
Ruffin Consulting Services. Love it. And helps individuals with their financial expertise and getting their money in order, which is so important to being a boss, as we know. And she's a side hustler, right? Like that is a firm that she started on the side while she is crushing it at corporate. And I'm so excited to hear about that transition, how you've made the leap and how others can do the same, as well as let's talk money today, ladies, because tax day is what, 3 days behind us now? Not even 2 days past.
Yes.
And it's so important to have those conversations about how money fits into financing your dreams, whatever that looks like for you. So throughout the course of today's conversation, I'm so excited. We've got viewers who are tuning in, who are joining us now, whether this is your very first Q&A Career Crush conversation with us, or you tune in every Wednesday at 1 o'clock Eastern when we host these. Welcome. Let's keep this conversational, let's keep this casual, and let's keep it real. After all, that's what Bossed Up is all about, sort of breaking down the myth behind how you craft a career with passion and purpose.
Yes.
And so we are going to use that hashtag Career Crush on Twitter. You can also comment below if you're watching this at the Bossed Up blog. You can comment directly on the blog post below, and you can tweet at me at BossedUp.org, and we'll keep those conversations flowing, and we'll keep your questions. I'll basically be monitoring Twitter and having your questions asked. So Ebony, thanks again for being here. Tell us about what you do, boss.
Thank you for having me, Emily. Welcome, everyone. My name is Ebony Ruffin. I am the founder and financial consultant of Ruffin Consulting Services. And as Emily shared with you earlier, it's definitely my side hustle. I'm also still in corporate as an accounting manager. And for me, they're the best of both worlds. I know most say if you're an entrepreneur, you have to let go of the 9 to 5, but I say I have two customers. One comes on a W-2 and the other is on a 1099. Because at the end of the day, it is my passion, which is finance, educating corporate on financial returns, return on investments, and then working with families and small businesses on what that looks like in terms of financial planning, securing the products that you need to protect your present and your future.
That's great. Awesome. And how did you get into this kind of work? What made this your calling?
For me, everything starts with childhood. So I grew up as what most would determine as an Army brat. So my mom served over 22 years in the United States Army. And traveling with my mom, there were just certain values instilled at home, and we always talked money at home. So at home, money wasn't given to me, but it was earned. And from there, everything that my parents wouldn't buy, I used my earned money to purchase on my own. So those habits definitely stayed with me throughout grade school and high school. So when I went off to Auburn University, I actually majored in finance. It was a perfect fit for me. And since then, I've been able to apply what I've learned through my schooling and education, as well as values from home with money, and use that in corporate, as well as just use the knowledge and information given to me to help others.
That's great.
Yes.
And what do you feel like, you know, it's interesting that you had this strong female role model when it comes to money, because traditionally a lot of in the past, and I have to say this is dated now, but traditionally, you know, the boys got the chores and allowances per se, or dad was the one who paid the bills. But I too came up in a household where my mom managed the money.
Yes.
And what do you feel like that has instilled within you as a woman in today's world, like to give you the confidence and courage not only to boss it up in finance, a major that is overwhelmingly dominated by men in the undergraduate level, but then beyond, enter the world of finance as an entrepreneur yourself?
Absolutely. I think that is an amazing question. It instilled in me that I do have power and ownership of my money. While I do value the man's role in the household, it allows me to know that I can contribute information or suggestions when it comes to saving money or how we spend money. So I believe that when women have those powerful female role models, whether it's your mother, your favorite aunt, your grandmother, or a best friend, it just lets you know that you're powerful as a woman when it comes to managing your money. It's not perfection that you're looking to achieve, but you're looking for attainable steps to apply in your everyday life and what the system will be for you when it comes to saving money, whether it's automating or still balancing the long way with a check register, or if it's having your direct deposit split amongst multiple accounts, working with a list, a budget. So finding what works for you and being empowered by that.
Right, because the one thing that I always come across at Bossed Up Bootcamp, where women are really coming together, who are in career transition, who are getting our lives together across work, love, and wellness to sort of chart our path forward to the lives and careers that we want, and someone's coming to mind in particular who was at our last boot camp, this sort of willful ignorance around money. We can be very good at our jobs. We can be very good friends. We can be very good at our wellness goals. But for some reason, all too often, I think there's like a blinders, like paralysis of knowledge that comes up where we're just afraid to know. And that leaves us in these really cycles of bad habits. So what would you say to someone who's feeling like total fear and overwhelm? Where do they get started?
I definitely can understand that. Even though my specialty is finance, and that's where I consider myself a subject matter expert, I also had to learn from my own habits, my own mistakes as well. And when you've made a couple of those financial mistakes, you definitely don't want to make them again. So first, I always say, identify what your financial goals are. Make a list of them. And then you want to separate that list between short-term and long-term financial goals. From there, all of your habits, when it relates to your finances, should be intentional. So it doesn't mean that every Saturday you go to brunch with your girlfriends. But if you choose to do that, that means throughout the week, you have to make accountable decisions that are intentional to preparing your meals at home, not spending money throughout the week. So if you want to grow in life and have some type of wealth, you have to be intentional about your financial decisions and have accountability partners. My friends will be the first person to tell me, Ebony, you're complaining about Uber, or you're complaining about how much we go to brunch, but you never tell us no, or you don't decide to walk instead of using Uber. So those are my accountability partners.
That's good. That sounds exactly like what it takes to craft a career that you love too, right?
Absolutely.
Clear goals, intention, and accountability. I love it.
Yes.
So tell me, you said you've made some mistakes along the way. What in the process of maybe, whether it's post-graduation, getting into your first corporate job or starting your business, what are some of the mistakes or challenge moments that you were faced with, and how did you overcome them?
Okay, actually, great question, especially since we're being transparent and relatable. I would say my biggest mistake came after my greatest victory. So at 23, I was able to purchase my first home in Georgia. It was a great accomplishment for me, for my family. It showed that I actually had certain financial things in place to be able to make that decision. However, in 2010 is when the market kind of took a turn. And my community was heavily impacted by everything that happened in the housing market. Although I financed a loan with a fixed interest rate that was an amazing interest rate just purely based on my credit, the demographics of my community changed drastically. So my middle class neighbors that we all saw each other leaving in the morning for work and coming home in the afternoon turned into abandoned homes that were foreclosed on or short sales. And as a result of that, for me personally, it changed my quality of life in my home, and the demographics of my community changed. Homeowners or renters who normally couldn't afford in that community were able to move in. Either they purchased a short sale, or an investor purchased the properties and rented them out to people who wouldn't normally care for the community. And as a result of that, it made what was my secure and comfortable place feel not so secure. And I felt pressure to leave. I wanted to leave that area. And the mortgage company would not allow me to sell the home for less than what I purchased it for, because I could not show a financial hardship. I had steady income. I had never missed a mortgage payment. Wow. And as a result, I said, I can't stay here, but I knew to not ever miss a mortgage payment. That's something you don't do. I'm very OCD organized and very aggressive when it comes to my business. So luckily my mortgage company was local, and I began to show up at the office and speaking to the loan officers. I finally was able to get them to approve me for a short sale. And also they forgave the balance of the debt from what I borrowed from my lender compared to what I sold it for. But it affected me for 7 years later because I had a short sale on my credit report. Right. So although I had managed my credit very well and made very sound decisions, it is within my greatest victory that I purchased my first home at 23, but also in my biggest learning curve of what it means to have a short sale and making the decision I thought was best for me in terms of a healthy living environment and the demographics and community that I desired and deserved.
Wow, yes. That is amazing. It makes so real the national demographics around the housing market crisis. And yes. The fact of the matter is that while our country's recovered from the Great Recession, we're all still feeling it.
Yes.
And I was mentioning earlier, I just read this article in the Atlantic magazine this morning called The Silent Shame of the Middle Class, that really emphasized this new statistic around how the I think it's the CDC actually took a survey of Americans and found that not the poor, defined by having restricted income and not enough to make ends meet, but the middle class of America, when asked if they were to be faced with a $400 emergency that needed $400 to sort of resolve, and were faced with an unanticipated expense like that, 47% of those in the middle class here in the United States said that they wouldn't know where to come up with that kind of money.
Yes.
And it goes to show you that we're just like barely there financially. What can we do to change that in our own behavior? Obviously, these are national statistics. It has a lot to do with stagnant wages, like we talked about, and the rising cost of living, whereas the basic incomes that we're all making haven't risen at the same level. What can we do? How can we empower ourselves, given that total crapshoot of injustice, quite frankly, that is still the status quo? How can we hack into that system and do what's best for us in the face of those kinds of realities?
First, I believe with getting real with your finances. Finances is a topic that most people pretend to want to address, but then they are not accountable with the actions and behavior of really sticking to what it means to manage your finances. So I believe that first, starting with what you have. If you have a salary that's $50,000 or a salary that's $98,000, or you're an entrepreneur and your hourly rate is $100 per hour, start with your income that you have now, and then identify what all of your liabilities and debts are. Who are you paying, whether it's weekly or monthly? Why are you paying them? Learn the power of negotiation. For those who still use the cable and cable box, there are so many other alternatives. So learn to cut down on the monthly expenses for a comfortable lifestyle. Get that under your belt first. Once you do that, I believe if it's working for you, continue the trend. So being real with what you have going on, being intentional about your behavior, and start with what you have right now. Most of us like to say, I don't have enough to be able to save. Or when I get this next big client, I'll invoice the client this amount and I'll start saving with that revenue. Or when I get that next big job. But the moment is now. And so we all want immediate gratification when it comes to things we want to indulge in, but adopt the mentality of immediate gratification when it comes to saving in your finances.
That's a great point. And, you know, it can be tricky, right? Because
Yes.
when you aren't making money, or when you're just getting started, or when we are up to our eyeballs with student debt like our generation is,
Yes.
it can feel overwhelming. But that chiseling away of just keep on keeping on can really be helpful.
Absolutely.
It can be part of it. And sort of that finding ways to have affordable fun is a huge part of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the reason that we here at Bossed Up host something that you've taken part in. That
Power Hour.
Power Hour.
Yes.
Yeah, Bossed Up's Power Hours are totally free night of networking where you can get together with other boss women who are there to talk honestly and candidly about the challenges and the triumphs in our lives right now and how we can lift as we climb.
Absolutely.
And so I guess I'm so excited because we got to hang out at our last Power Hour together.
Yes.
We have one coming up here in DC tomorrow night and in New York City next Thursday night, which is going to be so much fun. We've got really cool guest speakers and they're always free and always fabulous. What other ways can we grow our community and or experiment with not just growing our community, but like surround ourselves with people who are budget conscious fun finders, right? Like how have you been able to do that with your friends in your life?
Okay, so recently Ruffin Consulting Services launched on Instagram.
Yeah.
And having saying this, my personal fear I was allowing to carry over into my business. So I didn't have a personal page, but it was in that moment where I took the leap and said, I'm going to do this. And to answer your question, there has been a tribe of accountable women that I have connected with.
Yeah.
And so many great resources available to help us track our finances. And these are free resources. If I could just name drop a little bit, I think these women deserve it all. But Tanya Rapley of My Fab Finance,
Yeah.
Dominique Broadway, Clever Girl Finance, Sharon Beasley of Womaneer. These are all of my go-to resources.
I love it.
And I am loving the financial planners that they have on their website, as well as the budget spreadsheets, the resources. So, and similar to your website as well, on bossedup.org, I've downloaded your life tracker. And then these are tools that I use and I also share with my friends. And by sharing it with my friends, it's an exercise that we can work on together, whether it's over a glass of wine or we're working on it and we're in a group text and sharing our results. But I believe using interactive tools that are relatable and it makes saving fun. You don't feel like it's grunt work,
right.
But you feel like that this is something that can be colorful. It can be fun. It is achievable. And there's so many other women working on the same goals. So why not work with them?
Yeah, it's funny because I definitely grew up in a family that we were really good at spending and not too good at savings. And my relationship that I'm in right now, my man has taught me a lot about savings and game. Like he thinks about savings like a total game. And the way we were talking about it the other day, he was saying like, to me, savings just represents freedom. Like you're basically just hunting for freedom. Like when you gamify that, like, oh, okay, I'm like 2 days away from being able to get to 1,000 in this account now, or there's another grand here I can move over to there, or like $500 at a time, or $30 at a time, whatever it is. Like when you can turn it into a bit of a game and match yourself, what you're fighting for and what you're winning is freedom.
Absolutely, and it's financial freedom. Saving should be empowering to everyone, but I do believe it's always that first step. How do I start? How do I get there? You know, and we want to see results right away. If it's an extra $500 in our account and then it's 1,000, but I believe allowing yourself the time to get there, but being aggressive about starting. If you don't start, you've waited 5 to 10 years, you've lost 5 to 10 years of savings. So savings works for you when you start and you stay committed.
That's a good point. That's a good point. So I want to just remind everybody who's tuning in that you can ask your questions live. Just tweet them at me at hashtag or using the hashtag career crush, or you can tweet directly at bossedup.org so we can get your questions in with the remaining time that we have, because we do like to keep these short and to the point and hopefully pack a punch in while we're at it. So I guess my final question here, or sort of like the thing I want to talk about also for those who are entrepreneurial, who are considering a side hustle, how did you make the decision to launch your own gig on the side? What did that look like? How did you navigate that? What's been the scariest part of that, and what have you learned so far? I know that was like 20 questions, but take any one of them.
I can handle it. It's okay.
Okay.
So this started for me actually back in 2009-10 when I was living in Atlanta. And I was in my career field of finance as a credit supervisor. But many of my close network and family and friends recognized that I was super great at writing. I've even helped a brand launch a business beauty and beyond book, and I strictly wrote all the content of the book. So I first started with a lot of writing projects. And I believe I started there first because I said, okay, in my career, I'm doing finance. I want to see what else can I develop that's a little bit outside of the finance. But then I realized, okay, writing is really time consuming. It's not really my true passion, although I'm great at it. So from there, I began, you know, when you first start a business, you want to be everything to everyone.
Yeah.
But over the time, I evolved to what I'm really passionate about. And from there, I went on to get my license in life and annuities. And I focused on products that actually worked for myself and my family growing up, because I automatically knew how they worked. So I transitioned more into the education of retirement planning through products such as annuities, helping people with their 401k rollover, working with business owners to secure enough protection for their business and family shall something happen for them. And then most importantly, we're all living life, but we rarely look at what if we faced a critical, terminal, or chronic illness and what that will look like for us financially. So I'm very passionate about those products as well, coupled with a life insurance product to give you the protection that you need while you're living and for your family once you pass away.
Wow.
And with entrepreneurship, you have to be ready to evolve and recognize when change is needed. So when you first start, it's not going to be the perfect set of services, the best clients to work with. You're going to have to work. And with the clients that I have, it's not something that happened overnight for me. Working with finances is big on trust. And so my clients I've worked with through talking, engaging with them and their family, really being in tune to who they are and what they want and what their needs are, more so than a product that I want to help their family with. And I would say from there, that's kind of where my side hustle started. I proudly say that I'm still in corporate and I love what I do as a finance manager. And I just bring my life full circle by being able to be used as a vessel and share my testimony, but also share knowledge and information that I have. I realized that everyone didn't grow up at home with discussions about finance and saving and managing your money. And I was very blessed to have that in the household. So I look forward to giving back to the younger generations and working with my peers to share the information that I have.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Fantastic. And so I guess my last question for you is, here at Bossed Up, you know that I started this company because I burnt the heck out completely,
yes.
Right? I really believe in thriving while you're striving, right?
Yes.
And this idea of self-acceptance and giving yourself a break while you're also balancing that ambition. Like we can actually be ambitious and satisfied at the same time. So something like starting this whole company on the side, it sounds like a really big undertaking. How have you chosen mindfully to spend your time like you spend your money, right? Diligently, intentionally, to keep yourself sustainable, not just so you're crushing it and hustling through the short-term sprints, which frankly, I find myself doing far more often than I'm proud of. Even today, it's like sort of baked into us, I think, as Americans, this like hyperachiever culture we're in. But what do you do to sort of stop yourself, reset, stay balanced, and stay in tune with what really matters?
That is a great question. And actually, I use your company as a resource for that, including the power hours. I'm going to have to be honest and transparent with you and our audience here today. I have not totally mastered that.
Yeah.
I'm OCD about being organized and putting everything on the calendar. But as recent as yesterday, I had a meltdown like, oh my goodness, I have to prepare for the career crush.
Right.
You know, I want to be relatable. And so then I have that in my mental. I just accepted a great opportunity as a finance manager for a big law firm here.
That's
so
exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm transitioning out of one great company and position to another. As I shared with you earlier, I live in the Noma area of DC.
Yeah.
And so I move April 30th, right before the brunch for Bossed Up Camp on May 1st.
Oh, nice.
So in that moment, I tapped into my reliable resources. My mother as well as my friends. And I started with a list of everything that I have to do between now and May 1st.
Right.
And then I took that list and I prioritized it based on what needed to be accomplished last night, which was Tuesday, what has to be accomplished today, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday before I travel to Alabama.
Yeah.
And seeing it there helps me outside of my electronic calendar, because as long as it's on my electronic calendar, I'll move it to a different day. So I'm technically not crossing it off, but I'm just changing the date and time on it. So it's a work in progress for me. And I embrace sharing this journey with other people, because I also learned from personality tests that I've taken as an executive and an A-type person.
Yeah.
You sometimes just want to carry everything. You don't want to bother anyone. You don't want to ask for anything. But in the moment that you become vulnerable and really share with people what your struggles are that you face with your schedule, with your finances, is when you'll find your greatest help.
Yeah, it sounds to me like you come back to community again and again.
Yes.
And that's so like me too, because there's a lot of type A achievers out there. And I think that's a lot of who are attracted to Bossed Up is like, oh my gosh, how do I do everything I want to do? Like, there's a perfect magical organizer system, and we all have our crazy ass calendars, right?
Yes.
We all have our crazy systems and color coded and sticky noted.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, I think you're absolutely right that it comes back to the people who you allow into your life and who hopefully reflect back to you that unconditional love. Like, it doesn't really matter what you do right or wrong today.
Exactly.
You are a great person, right?
Yes.
Phoning a friend, phoning a family member. It's like
Yes.
good lifeline, right? And so
And even my Instagram tribe of women, they are all so supportive, and it's amazing how you can connect authentically with people in cyberspace. And it's to the point where I know their names and I'm not calling them by their alias name, but I'm really like, calling them by their real name.
That's
so
amazing.
Having that support group is very important.
That is so good. I love
Yes.
that. And that's part of the reason that so for those of us who are tuning in who can't come to Power Hour in DC or New York, it's part of the reason why we started the Bossed Up Courage community online, a Facebook group for women helping women, really, and to lift as we climb. Because when we come together and cheer each other on and collaborate instead of compete, incredible things happen. And when we also treat ourselves like we would treat our best friends, that we can actually sustain that ambition over the long term.
Yes, the official hashtag there. I love collaborate instead of compete.
It's so true. It's so true. Well, in that same spirit, it is so great to have you on today, Ebony. Thank you so much for spending some of your afternoon with us.
Thank you so much, Emily, and to the Bossed Up community. Love you all. See you soon.
Yeah, and where can our ladies learn more about what you do and keep up with you?
Sure. So definitely check me out on my website. It's Ruffin Consulting Services with an S.com, as well as on Instagram, Ruffin Consulting Services. There on the Instagram page, you're going to find plenty of financial tips that I think are relatable and helpful. In addition to Instagram, the company's LinkedIn page is Ruffin Consulting Services. And last but not least, if you want to make a phone call to me, I'm at 1-888-9-RUFFIN or email me at info@ruffinconsultingservices.com.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for your time, and thanks to all the bosses for tuning in. There is so much more where this came from, of course. If you are really ready to accelerate your career path, do not delay. Apply today for Bossed Up Bootcamp, our flagship and most popular training program that really started it all for women navigating career transition. I'm so thrilled that you'll be joining us, Ebony, as our keynote speaker at our closing brunch at Bossed Up Bootcamp in Washington, D.C. at the very end of this month, April 30th into May 1st. And we are also coming up to New York City next in June. We're bringing boot camp there, and then back to DC, and we're also coming up to Boston in the fall. So if you are a lady on the East Coast, or like so many women have, you are ready to fly your butt across the country to join us for this really transformational weekend, you can find all the details and apply today at bossedup.org or .com, same difference, /bootcamp. And you'll hear from lots of other alums who've gone through it and have navigated big life inflection points at that program.
And just one more thing I would like to add, definitely go to bossedup.org and download the Life Tracker. It has been a tool for me that is real. And until you get real with yourself, then I don't know where you're going to go. But definitely
I'm so glad to hear that. I have to talk more about that, because that's really, it's a huge part of what we do at boot camp, and it's a free download on my website. So go check it out. It is pretty awesome, and it's the foundation of how to balance without busy work, really.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thanks so much, Ebony, and thanks to all our viewers for tuning in, whether you're with us live or watching later. Just remember to keep bossing, and we'll see you back here real soon.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Take care.